Welcome to the ATS Breathe Easy, the latest podcast. Here's your host, Patti Tripathi.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Breathe Easy, the latest. We have a great show coming up with patient advocate Len Geiger. But first, here are the latest headlines. The measles outbreak is still making headlines now with the death of a second child in Texas. Experts agree that vaccines are effective despite what the skeptics say. If you or your child are not vaccinated, see your healthcare provider today and get the shot. Your phone might be the reason you can't sleep. Our cell phones have become hard to live without. If you live with a teenager, you know that this is particularly true. A new study in Frontiers in Psychiatry found that screen time in bed was associated with an increased risk of developing insomnia symptoms, regardless of the screen activity. And now for some good news out of Germany. Funding freezes and mass layoffs are crippling the U.S., but help may be on the way. German research institute BioMedX is stepping up to help U.S. scientists with its matchmaking program. The program aims to match researchers with industry partners. We'll be right back.
The ATS 2025 International Conference returns to San Francisco, May 16th to the 21st. Members get a discount on conference registration, so become an ATS member or renew your membership to take advantage of these savings. At ATS 2025, you can network with colleagues, find your next research collaborator, listen to patient stories and get inspired, and be among the first to learn about breaking news in pulmonary medicine. Register now to attend. Go to conference.thoracic.org today.
Welcome back. We're joined today by Len Geiger, a patient advocate set to deliver the plenary keynote address at the ATS 2025 in San Francisco in just a few weeks. And happy birthday to you. You just turned 66, correct?
Yes.
At the age of 35, did you ever think that you would make it this long?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Getting diagnosed with Alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency at 35 years old and finding out that at that point, the average lifespan was about 56. No, I didn't think that I'd be living this long, and especially to be in the shape that I'm in now. So it's, I'm surprised every day.
Yeah. And what do you credit that to? And what will you be telling people who are attending the conference?
The miracle of modern medicine is the biggest thing, I think. So the medication that I was able to use that slowed the rate of my decline, that gave me more time to be able to wait long enough for that second miracle of modern medicine, which was my lung transplant. So all of those things. And then, there's a little bit of work involved in it and keeping myself in shape and eating right and being active has been part of it. And then, as my father said many years ago, son, we gave you some bad genes because I had a genetic lung disorder. He says, but damn it, we gave you some good genes too. So I attribute some of my success to that as well.
Your lung capacity was 15%. You probably couldn't do much at that time. You said that going to the bathroom, coming back, even lying in bed was an enormous torture.
That was right before the transplant. So at about 43 years old, 42, 43, that was the worst of it.
And it took, you were on a wait list for 8 years, correct?
5 years.
5.
But still, very long time.
Yes. And so it just came at the right time. You got a call from Virginia. Tell me about that.
Oh, getting the call from the University of Virginia, that was unique because I'd been waiting for such a long time. I'd hoped that I was going to get a call to get a transplant, but I didn't know that I was going to get one. And I certainly didn't know that I was going to get one that day. And to have them just interrupt my day by saying, "Hey, are you ready to come and get your transplant?" I was like, "Hold on, I don't know. I know I'm very sick. I know I need the transplant. I know it's a good thing, but what I want to do is call everybody I know and say, what should I do? Because I don't know." And I couldn't contact anyone. I had no time. I was literally on hold on the phone, and all these crazy thoughts went through my head. And the one that stuck was the simplest of all. And it was just that I haven't smiled for over 6 months because I've run out of reasons to smile. And so I said yes. And then they flew me up to, I was living just outside of Atlanta, and they flew me on a Learjet air ambulance to rush me up to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And in about 2 seconds, it seemed like I was in the operating room and shaved and betadined, and the anesthesiologist bent over and said, "Are you ready for this?" And I was like, "Okay." And boom, everything went black.
Miracle science.
Yeah.
But this didn't come easily, because you said there was a point where your entire world came crashing down. You got a divorce. You couldn't meet your bills. Are these things that some of the patients are going through that you have come across being an advocate now for lungs?
Yeah, this is one of the things that happens with a number of different diseases. Alpha-1 among them is that as you are entering or in the middle of your prime earning years, when you're making the money that your entire family is going to be retiring on, you get hit with something like this, and it just destroys your world. So much of the time, you can't. Not only are you physically incapable of doing a lot of things, but you're physically incapable of working. Doing what you were doing, and you lose your job, and suddenly you're on disability with that, Social Security disability income, which is a blessing, but at the same time, it's not really enough to live on. And, I lost my house, I lost my wife, I lost my health, I lost my car, I lost everything over this extended period of time. And you got to remember, I was 35 and I was like on top of the world. I either had or was on my way to having pretty much everything I'd ever wanted or needed in my life. And it all got taken away bit by bit by bit. So it was difficult, to say the least.
In 1994 to 2002, when you get
Yes.
and
The transplant.
things changed, correct?
Oh, when I got the transplant? Yeah. So like what we were saying, my lung function was about 15% of predicted just before the transplant. And 5 days after the transplant, they had me back on a treadmill in the hospital, in the pulmonary rehab unit. And they started me off at about 1.5 miles an hour, because that's about how fast I could go with oxygen on before the transplant, which is just a very slow walk.
Well,
And
what blew me away was that you were working out even with 15%. Most people would be like,
I don't know.
moving my couch.
I'm not really sure I'd call it working out. I was moving. I was trying. I was struggling, and I was watching my oxygen saturation. I was doing it logically and carefully. But yes, I pushed myself all the way up until the end. And I think it really paid off, because when you're in shape and have something like this, your ability to recover from it is just, it's amazing. It's so fast. Just suddenly you're oxygenated and you can breathe, and you're like,
Body is an amazing machinery.
It's incredible, just incredible.
And okay, so then you decide to fly like a Superman, and
okay, so here's the deal. Here's the deal. It's not my fault.
Yes. You went mountain biking and you had another accident where you were hospitalized, correct?
Yes. So the idea was that after the transplant, I can breathe now, but unfortunately, I had lost both of my hips because of prednisone use. I developed avascular necrosis and had 2 artificial hips. And these are the old time hips from 25 years ago, where you can't run on them. It's not like current technology. So it was it was difficult. And so I had the transplant. Now I can breathe, and I want to really push myself, and I want to run. And I can't run because I've got these fake hips. And I couldn't walk fast enough to make myself short of breath. I couldn't raise my own heart rate. So I decided somehow that I'll take up mountain biking because it sounds like a great idea, for the guy with 2 fake hips and a double lung transplant, because nobody wrecks their mountain bike, do they? Which, of course, I did 3 months after my lung transplant. Major Superman accident. Flying over the handlebars, way down a hill, landed on my side and shattered my femur, which was a big mess. And the worst part was that, well, first of all, there's a little bit of comic relief I need to throw in, because my buddy dialed 911, got the EMTs to show up, and they had to hike up the mountain biking trail to get to me. And they laid the stretcher down next to me and they said, "Mr. Geiger, before we touch you, we're just going to take a brief history." I thought that was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. I actually, despite being in gut-wrenching pain, I started laughing. And then when the morphine kicked in, it got even funnier. But they did get me off of the mountain, and they put my leg back together. And unfortunately, 2 hours after the surgery, I threw a fat pulmonary embolism, and I stopped breathing and ended up on a ventilator in an induced coma for 3 weeks, which is usually not survivable. And somehow I was able to start breathing on my own. I was not responsible for that. I wasn't there. I was totally unconscious, but started breathing on my own and extubated myself, which is kind of par for the course, I guess. And they woke me up and sent me home 4 days later. And then I had to recover from all that. So that was the next journey.
So then you decide to run the Peachtree Road Race, which went right below my condo on Piedmont Park on 12th Street.
That was my comeback. It took me 10 months to get to that point. I had a lot of rehab, learning, getting my leg back in shape, getting my body back in shape, because I'd lost 40 pounds in the hospital. And doing the Peachtree was something I told my friends I was going to do while I was still stuck in a bed, unable to move. And they laughed and laughed. But 10 months later, on the 4th of July, I was there in Atlanta doing the Peachtree, which I didn't run because I can't run. I did this ugly race walk thing. Kind of, it's the thing that people actually watch the Olympics just to make fun of the race walkers. It was that kind of thing.
So it seems to me that you're pushing yourself. You're beyond the boundaries, most people's boundary.
It's funny though. I know a lot of people like that push themselves harder than I can push myself. Yeah. And so to me, it's not like an extraordinary thing. I guess my goal is to get the people who are sitting on the sofa saying, "I can't do that," who haven't tried, to get up off the sofa and try, do something. Everybody can do something more than they're doing right now.
This is very important to you to speak at at ATS 2025 and International Conference. Why is that?
Well, my primary focus at this meeting is going to be, number one, to raise awareness of my lung disease, because it is a vastly underdiagnosed and misdiagnosed disorder. And testing is very, very easy. It's the simplest thing in the world. And yet there's so much pushback for routinely testing patients for this. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of miseducation, a lot of, unfortunately, lack of real awareness even within the primary care community, which is realistically where most of these patients are. As I was diagnosed, luckily, by a primary care doctor. Yeah. And yet that's not what happens most of the time. They get sent to a specialist, and a pulmonary specialist, who hopefully will, they're like the backstop. They're the end. That's the end of this journey. If that pulmonary specialist doesn't diagnose this patient, they're never going to get diagnosed. And they're going to continue to decline. And maybe they'll get a lung transplant, and maybe they'll die. And I think that's just an awful shame and no reason for it.
What's really poignant is a quote that you said. You wanted to find the donor. of your lungs. And it turned out to be a teenager named Corinne. You named your daughter after her, and you carry a picture around, right, with you, and that you didn't know whether you're carrying Corinne around with you or she's carrying you around with her.
Yeah, it's both. It's both. She saved my life, and it's my job to preserve her memory. I mean, this is the biggest thing she ever had a chance to do, unfortunately, was to save my life. And so that's something that I cherish and will always cherish. I mean,
and you connected with her parents, and you run a race with her father, who was a runner as well. Yes. What made you? Oh, awesome! What made you decide to? Why did you want to find them?
Oh, because it mattered so much to me. It's like I need to say thank you. I need to let this family know what they did for me, and and that their loved one didn't die completely in vain. And after meeting them and finding out about them and understanding that what they did was such a selfless act, this decision to donate everything that they possibly could, because I mean, this is one of the worst things that can happen to anybody, is to lose a family member, and especially a child. And it's just like this blackness, this deep darkness. And organ donation raises this possibility of a light somewhere that maybe someone will benefit. And she ended up saving 5 people's lives just straight up with solid organ transplant, plus everything else that was donated, including her eyes and tissue. And they did it totally selflessly, with no restrictions on, I want the person to be this type of person. I want them to be a good person, or I want them to be white or black or this. Nothing, just here. And then I got a chance to meet them and say thank you. And we've been this is my other family. And we've been like that since about a year and a half after the transplant, when we first met.
And your daughter's name is Ava Corinne as well. And she's 19.
She's 19 years old, lives in New York City now. Yes. She's a big girl, going to school, freshman.
That's awesome.
Yeah, scary.
What else are you planning on saying at this conference that I didn't ask you? Live life.
Yeah. Yeah, please. Live a big life if you can. Do the things that you think you can't, or at least try to. I want to, it's going to be a lot of healthcare professionals. I want to browbeat them just a little bit about not testing for my disease. I want to thank them for testing for my disease. I want to thank them for being healthcare providers, for saving so many people. And again, for that miracle of modern medicine. But I want to get them emotionally involved in not just Alpha-1, but disease, and not just from a medical standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. I want them to care. And I know they care, but I want them to care with a different, deeper intent.
With their heart.
With their heart. I think it's going to be a blast. We'll see how it goes.
We look forward to meeting you and listening to you. And it's very important to you. You already expressed that to me. Now, lastly, before we say goodbye, you did something for your 66th birthday, and explain to me why you did that and its significance.
Okay. So,
see it first.
Do you want to see it first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I had done a week before my 66th birthday, present to myself. And I hope it all shows well.
It's rather large.
Is it in frame?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a pair of lungs with a tree of life growing out of the top of it. Yeah. And roots coming out of the bottom of the lungs, growing into me. And what this signifies is not just that that Corinne's lungs gave me life, but also that in the long run, this tree has grown and is shading and protecting these lungs and keeping them healthy and keeping her alive. And as her lungs have roots growing into me, we all become one. And this is as much for her family as it is for me, and as much for my daughter as it is for me. And to see, this is, again, life coming from this one decision to be an organ donor. What more can I say?
Yeah, anything to add? So you'll be speaking to people's hearts, emotions, and you will be telling them to live life. And you will also address this, the importance of being a donor.
Yes. That sells itself.
Thank you for joining us today. To learn more, visit our website at thoracic.org. Find more ATS Breathe Easy podcasts on Transistor, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you never miss a show.